Evening, it's Friday, August the 8th, 2024, and this is the Wall Street Weekly Wrap Up with your host, John Newquist, and it's a late red eye edition. What a long day. I'm sure you had one too. Let's take a look at our portfolio, our Nextgen up today, year to date, up 12.81%. So, pretty good. What do we have this week? I forgot to take the news out, but tariffs. We didn't get any new deals this week. The job report had a lingering effect, but overall a good week, and we got to celebrate a good week. We'll look at the next gen compared to the S&P, our benchmark. We're up almost 50% compared to the S&P. Not quite, almost. 8% go to 50% higher is 12. That's not bad. Nasdaq is roaring. Now we got Nasdaq stocks, but overall the other Nasdaq rallied more than the big Mag 7. The Dow kind of making 3.8. A lot of managers are in the 3 to 4% range. They are trailing the S&P by half. So now we have managers chasing what they think are the hot stocks, trying to get back to the S&P because they got out in April, said I'll buy in the dip that never came. I just showed the Indian rupee because this is a horrible chart. It goes back, I think 2010 or something like this. I can't even read the numbers now. But look at this thing. This has been a slow night. It's one of the lowest that's out there. And of course, they're buying the Russian oils, reselling all the products from the Russian oil, and making a lot of money. And guess what? 45% tariff. Wow. Now, the president is going to meet with Mr. Putin. We'll see what happens. I have a feeling, just my hunch, that they may have a deal, but the Europeans and Ukrainians aren't going to go for it. Just my hunch, he's trying to get a deal, and again, Russia doesn't want to give up the 4 territories, so we could talk all day long about that, but that's not what we're here for. Let's take a look at the big one. Oh my God, look at the gold chart. All-time high. Boom, 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 boom. All-time high. So, stocks like FCX, the number one gold producer, going to do well. Crude oil's getting close to $60. A lot of people think it'll go down. I don't know. I mean, this is a good price for oil. Gas prices have been kind of consistent in my town at least. Been about $3.39. It'd be nice if it would blow that, but it's not going to work. Natural gas poked below 3 already. Silver's doing well. Copper, remember we had that big drop that one day because everybody thought the ore was going to be taxed, and it isn't. So all that ore that they bought in advance, hoping to corner the market. We learned from the bunker hunts when they tried to do the same thing in silver in 1980. It didn't work for copper, and that's why we're at it. The big thing with gold is they're thinking the tariff on a 1 kilogram gold bar, 2.2 pounds of gold. And you think about a troy ounce at 3,400 and 16 troy ounces, whatever it is per pound. You can do the math. That's who's buying that? The super rich. You gotta have a place to store this stuff. You can't just like put it in the bed and store it underneath the bed. It's like, everybody can carry 2 pounds of lots of gold money. It's good. Of course, you can't buy gold jewelry now. It's like super expensive. But TKO, one of our stocks we've been in a long time, like when it was way down over here. If we go back, we're at the chart here. We go way back over here. We were in TKO because big fan of UFC and got WWE and revenues up 53%. Now, did the street like it? Not really, because they're waiting for the UFC deal. Everybody thinks it's going to be big. I think it's going to be big. So that's going to be a lot of revenue. Because it's unique. It's got a solid fan base, a dedicated group of watchers, and a good demographic that a lot of people would like to tap into. So I think it's going to go good. Fly, our new stock of the portfolio for manufacturing, because we only had the one with Hormel, and this is a tough one. It IPOs on Thursday. We bought it at 67, 68. It doesn't matter. It went down to 52, and people are like, oh my God. Remember, we're easing in at like a tenth of the time. So we have 9 more buys of this. We're not trying to time it. We're just trying to buy it and just ease into it. Wait a little bit, add some more next month or the month after that, and eventually we'll be at a full position. So, that's okay. I look at it. They are the only ones with their blue ghost. I keep on thinking space ghost. To put the spacecraft on the moon. They can do everything from the whole rocket to the software to the lander, and they've got $1 billion in backlog. Look at the revenues. Could you imagine if you're making $70,000 and you got $1 million of backlog? Wow. I'd like to be that company. There's some cash burn, and of course it's not making money, but we'll see when the revenues come out. I think it's a company that look in it. They got backing from NASA, Northrop Grumman, and Lockheed Martin. So, you got Rocket Labs and SpaceX and Blue Origin by Bezos, and Virgin's got something too. And it's like, this is a chance to get into something. I think they're going to put a lot of stuff in the air. I think there's going to be a demand for this stuff. Got to clean up the stuff eventually too. So a lot of areas that they can do. And I think, somebody said they're going to put a power plant on Moon. I'm like, why? Why would you do that? Put a power plant on Venus where you get the sun at it 24/7 and do something. But I don't know. That's this is too hot for Venus. Okay. Not like warming Mars. I want to say that drop in Lilly. They did the pill, and the pill's not as good as a shot. It works, but not as good as the shot, and they beat it up. I mean, this is like, wow. So we're not even fully invested in Lilly, but we're gonna buy some more eventually. We're not in a hurry. We want to see. You always get 3 days of kind of down, and let's see if it drops Monday again and goes through it. I mean, some people are like, well, that's a good time to buy. Well, if you're easing in, it really doesn't matter. You're not going to get a bad position in it. But this is the healthcare's been tough. It's been very tough. $500 million of vaccine developments disappearing, and that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money to other tech companies and stocks and healthcare. Texas Roadhouse, boy, they didn't like this earnings. It was already in a downtrend, and all the earnings did is make it get worse, which is never a good sign. But I always watch revenue, double-digit food revenues. Most food companies, McDonald's, everybody would love to have double-digit revenues and stuff. Positive earnings, comp sales up 5.8%. That's solid. You go there on a Friday, Saturday, you're waiting in line. This is a company that's good, and you got to get past the market iterations and stuff.
This is a reminder. What is the best crypto right now to buy?
Oh, there's a lot of good crypto.
This is a reminder. What is the best crypto right now to buy?
I'm a fan of Solana and XRP, but that's just me. We'll talk about it, because I've been doing a feature crypto in our group of 10 of crypto 11 that we have, and I'm starting to get more. I look at it how it's going to go. You got to be able to move the crypto fast. You can't be having long lines and minutes to get something approved. And so Bitcoin, which is first, I don't think is the future. Just me. I got a lot of people not going to agree with that position. Apple, Tim Cook did the sales. We're going to put $100 billion. That's a magic number. The president's going to do a press conference. We're going to build more stuff in the United States. Not going to build the iPhone in the United States. Still going to be built in India and China. China sales were up for the iPhone, which is good. A lot of, revenues were up 10%. So a lot of people like this thing. I mean, if you look at the chart, this is a breakout. If you're going to buy Apple, this is not a bad time to buy. You got past all this negative selling. I could say get back up to 260, 270 and stuff. But my question is, how many people bought the iPhone during the upgrade cycle because they fear the tariffs were there? I have a lot of people that they're waiting. They don't know if they want to buy it. And it's not interesting. That's a bad thing if they don't want to buy it. The housing market, now we have more sellers, houses than buyers, but this is all kind of like an illusionary number because the interest rates are high. You're not getting any break in the last year. So, when they cut the rate in September, the interest rates went up. That's not supposed to happen. And that's what the thing is. The bond, vigilantes, I like that term. They decide what it is. They, the president and everybody else cannot make the bond rate go in there, unless they're going to let you borrow from the Fed, which they're not. So the bond market, not so cheap, But this is always interesting. There's more sellers. A lot of people are selling the houses as the older people who are in the house at low rates, getting out, moving, they're looking at it. So just an interesting thing. And Uber, I think their earnings were good. Merck was like, they bought back stock, which gives people confidence that they don't need to spend the cash. I think you're going across the world trying to expand. You need cash. Why are you buying back the stock? That's just me. I'm just like, you're a tech stock. You're not a J.P. Morgan where you're just going to keep on buying back because you can't put the money back in anything. Good earnings, good revenue growth. They're 2/3 of the U.S. market. They do well worldwide. I like it worldwide. I think it's a good stock to be in, and we're not in it. But again, we can't have everything be tech. Otherwise, we just might as well buy the Nasdaq 100. We're buying the best, and is Uber the best? It's good. It's close to being in the group, but we're not in it right now. Good chart though. I mean, it's a nice steady up climb, doing well, and I wouldn't be surprised to see it break up again. I like Expedia. If I have to do traveling, I'm going to use Expedia. You pay for it, and you're done. You're not getting there and getting all these extra people trying to negotiate a rate. It's already paid. You do foreign travel, this is a godsend because you go out there and holy smokes, it's the rate has been paid, and then the people are like, oh yeah, I did get a check from Expedia. There it is. It's locked in. They back you 100%. Not like some places where you pay when you get there, and then the owner's got a different idea what you're going to be paying than what they kind of had in the other websites. So, I look at it, revenue 6.4, you'd like double digits, and I don't know if that'll ever happen in travel. I am seeing a lot of discounting for the fall. If you travel during like a Tuesday, Thursday, come back on a Tuesday, Thursday, a lot of airfare. You might want to look at those because you're starting to see it, and because the tariffs, everything else, people's economy, budget. Summer's the travel season, not the fall, and so if you want to go somewhere, that might be the time to go. Eaton, I always say, oh, it's 50% data, it's going to be great, it's in there. Okay, Azure, Google going 30%, Amazon 19%, and Eaton's only doing 10%. If they're 50% in the data centers, that doesn't make math. They must have other sections that are doing bad. Downside guidance, well, that's the kiss of death. You do that, boom, you're going to drop the stock. So, is it a great thing? I don't know. I'm more interested in like the pure nitrogen extinguishing system and who's doing that and who's going to make money. I mean, Linde and Air Products will make money, but I want to know who's putting it in. It ain't going to be Vertex. CF Industries, ammonia, and that's a pretty big jump. Yeah, but market didn't like it. You would think you have a 20% jump in revenue, and you drop the stock like 10%. So this is a company, like I said, we went through the nonsense of Liberation Day, and now we're at a stock that's had below its average. This is scary when it gets below the 200. You don't know how far it's going to go. Could it go down here? I think so. I think you get it. I mean, I haven't looked at CF Industries in a while, but we're going to grow farms, and and I can see everybody buying the ammonia products. So, not a bad stock. Might be one to buy.
EXPN will buy T. KO for you. FC.
I talk like Captain
This is a
Kirk.
reminder.
Alexa, stop. Will ESPN be the deal maker? It could be. Disney owns ESPN, could be the buyer. But we have Netflix, we have Amazon. You want to lock in a solid market, you can do it. That's one of the things you could do. Make the deal with TKO, and we're going to show the UFC fights. And could you imagine if Netflix just starts saying, okay, we bought it, you get Netflix subscription, you get it free. You don't have to do pay-per-view anymore. Wow. Again, advanced micro devices, again, another one of the tech shots. It bottomed in Liberation Day. It shot up double, so you could have doubled your money. But that's a lot of Nasdaq stock. So don't look at it like this is something special out of nowhere. Data center revenue up 14%. That means if you're at Google and Azure 30% and Amazon, you're not even keeping pace with it. It's NVIDIA. That's our king. Then ARM, and then Taiwan Semiconductor. So Lisa Su says she's got the chip equal to that. Maybe other companies like Tesla and other companies will start buying their chip. I just don't see the catch up right now. You know, some people are going to look at it, but I could see this drop down to 130 too. So, you know, if you get into it and you look at it and you think, man, if you got the foresight to get in down here, maybe take some money. Again, Caterpillar, I watch because they're worldwide. They have equipment for mining. They got equipment for excavation and construction, and revenue's flat, which means economies in the world is kind of flat, except the United States is doing good and other parts not so good. So again, good stock jump from Liberation Day, but you know, is it going to be like these other companies start to drop down? This is where I'm starting to worry about. We're going to get a lot of peel back to maybe 50% of the jump here. So, you know, not looking forward to that if that happens, you know. Lemonade, I mean, I get people talking, wow, look at that revenue jump, look at that revenue jump. What do they do? Well, they make AI for insurance products. They match you up and they give you all the best thing based on your demographics and all the information you put in. But you know what? They're not making money. And I understand that AI costs money. They got to pay AI money to do what they want to do. But I'm not a fan of companies that growing fast and burning cash. And you know, you got a lot of those during the dot-com bubbles of 1998, 99, 2000. I am not buying a company like that. And so when you make money, wake me up. Pfizer, you know, we used to have Pfizer, you know, COVID company, did real well. Revenues are still going. There's no COVID revenue anymore, probably. You know, I mean, I didn't listen to the earnings call, but you know, this is a nice steady one. I mean, they got a pipeline, and you know, it's like healthcare. You've lost money if you sit there and started the year. You've lost money in healthcare, which you know, we got our basket of stocks. The dollar decline. I hear these people talk about, oh, the dollar's going to go down, but you know, we're right over here, and it's going down a little bit. But you know, economy's good. You know, you got to remember we got a lot of big, strong companies making semiconductors and products across the world, and they're doing good. Not you know, the GDP is going to be like 1.5 is what they revise it downward to, but it's still growing. So, you know, the weaker dollar. I mean, I hear people I respect like Glenn, like you know, talking about, oh yeah, it's going to help the industrials and energy and everything else, but we'll see. I mean, when we go back, and this thing goes back to 1973. You know, yeah, during what was this year? This was 81. This is the you know Reagan era, where it was you know high inflation. You know, dollar was strong because the world was having a lot of problems. But I don't know. You know, I mean, I always look at 1990 because I was in England and it was lower. And I tell you what, I remember paying it was like, oh God, what was it? It was like 180 for to the pound. I mean, that was high. You know, I mean, it was expensive. You know.
This is a reminder what the China market looks like.
Well, they're negotiating. Going to be pushing it off.
What the China market looks like.
You know, the deal is, you know, they got to get this Russia-Ukraine thing over, and then we can deal with China. And I don't know what'll happen. They want to make a deal with China. They want to do it, but you know, they've got the big companies. I mean, the big countries: EU, Japan, South Korea. China's really the only one really big left to negotiate with, and they've got to be feeling the pressure too. You know, what is a tariff? It's going to be 30, 20%. I wouldn't be surprised if it doesn't end up at 15% like Europe, you know, but who knows? This thing is a long, drawn-out negotiation. Palantir is the meme stock of 2025. You know, 48% growth in revenue. That's great. I mean, you know, I give Alex Karp and his team, and you know, they're doing a lot of work out of the government. They did real well with government contracts, but the trouble is, you know, the government's got a big debt, and you know, sometimes you cut some of these contracts out. You know, I don't know. I mean, you know, he doesn't seem to think so, and he's positive about it, but it's got a meme life of its own. There's, you know, a lot of you know, Palantir hardcore people and stuff, and they think it's going to go good, and you know, guides the revenue above consensus. They come out earnings, it goes up. You know, I remember way back here, you know, it's in the 40s and 50s, but it was also in the 20s. So if you did well and you picked it, you know, I just looked at it. You know, I'm just reluctant, like, you know, because I deal with, you know, I used to deal with Bullis Hamilton. A lot of contract money with the government is unpredictable if they cut back, and maybe your programs get cut back. I don't know. You know, he's talking about how it makes it more efficient and everything else. That could be. You know, it's just tough. to buy something that's got a PE ratio of 180 or something like that. I mean, it's huge. So you don't have to buy it. There's always something else coming by. We can go into. OpenAI, I stretched the chart out so it kind of looks slanty and kind of like really. Why is these words all stretched out? Well, because I stretched it out. 12 billion in their revenue. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. $12 billion in annual revenue. 700 million ChatGPT weekly active users. It's like in the top 5 websites now of people go to. It didn't even exist 5 years ago. So what are they thinking? Well, it's going to be, $500 billion. I'm waiting for it to come public. It's got to come public. They got to do a deal. I know it's a nonprofit, but everybody wants it to come public, and I don't know what the mechanism to get it to go public. But GPT-5 came out. It's like, a little bit better than 4. I mean, I don't notice that much, I would think the images would go faster, but it doesn't, because I'm paying money, But I use it all the time. But I like Grok. I also like Google Gemini and Meta AI. So, those are the 4 kings right now that I use a lot. And, but I think it's going to be, pretty interesting IPO. It might be worth $1 trillion by the time could you imagine an IPO coming out at $1 trillion? I can't. So let's take a look at our crypto of the week. We're going through our portfolio of crypto. I always compare why would you use XRP versus Bitcoin? Well, the speed is there. That's it. That's why I said Bitcoin is like this old ancient car that you got. You got a 1930 Model T. That's what Bitcoin is. Yeah, it's a store of value, but you really would like to get a little bit faster. The speed is good. Transaction costs are good. You don't have to mine Bitcoin. I mean, XRP or Ripple. You can scale it. I mean, 1,500 transactions per second is great. Not as fast as Solana, but this is it. And everything is faster with this product, and I'm a fan of it. We were in it like right over here. When it was nothing, we sat there and watched it go flat forever. So, and then all of a sudden it triples. It's like, okay, that was nice. And, how far is it going to go? We don't know. We don't know. But I think the faster cryptos that are popular are going to be the winners. Just my viewership. We look at energy. We have Exxon and Southwest, and again, both of them are down, but most of the energy down. Enbridge, I have no idea. I mean, I didn't go into the details why Enbridge jumped a lot, but one of the things you learn real quick is these things jump up on 10% a quarter, up 10, down 10. I just say Exxon makes billions of dollars. That's why you got to do it. Southwest is a gas company, want a gas stock. Overall, the energy broke down. We broke this triangle. That's not a good sign. We're down almost. Are we going to go below 60? I was listening to the president say if we get down to 50, the Russians have to settle because their economy is going to collapse. And I think that could be very, very well true. So we'll see. And especially if they tell people like India you can't buy, and then it's just China buying Russian oil, and they want a deal too. So maybe you slow down and, maybe, I don't know. It's all this is related to like what the world economy is. Because if Russia settles, let's say it does, and they can bring the refineries and pump full gas, it's going to go down even lower, which is going to hurt their economy. But what do? You got to pump oil to survive. That's your only livelihood. You take off some of the sanctions, now you got a different ball game. ExxonMobil market cap's 400 million. Remember, in 2014, this was the largest market cap company. It was like, I don't know if it was 500 million or whatever, but it was great. But the dividend is going up all the time, and it's at 3.7. Again, just like XLE, it's gone down. We're all working. So that's why I said, this might be the time if you had a lot of these energy companies, you might want to lighten that up a little. I know everybody says, oh, we need energy, we need oil. Yeah, well, utilities are not the energy companies, so, that's a little bit different. PDE is good. SWX, good dividend, low market cap, but, this is a little bit different. You go back here, it's going down. Here, it's coming up close to the top. So, gas is, moving the gas. The Europeans committed to buying a lot of natural gas, whether they do it, because, you got the deal and you've got to buy it. Well, come wintertime, they got to buy it. They don't get the Russian gas, so they're going to have to buy somewhere. The U.S. has got a ton of gas. So let's take a look at it. Oh, I got to move my little picture here. Overall, a green week. I mean, we're in Google and Meta and Nvidia and J.P. Morgan. Of course, Lilly's our dog of the week for our portfolio, but it's okay. The pill works, Manjaro works, Wegovy, it's all good. The retailers a little bit positive. Energy, I don't know how it goes down and it's positive, but it did. Again, real estate, more sellers than buyers, and utilities taking a breather. So overall, not a bad week. Anytime we go up, it's a good week, and that's what we want to keep on doing. Buy the best stocks, buy the best sectors, and we'll do well. And like I said, we'll see you next week. Have a good week, get some sleep, and don't burn in the sun.